Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the afternoon session that's going to focus on tourism recovery in the post-COVID world. So please grab a glass of water or a seat, and we'll begin the panel discussion and introduce our panelists today. My name is Mark Stanton, and I'm honored to serve as the Vice Mayor of Paradise Valley. Where's my Paradise Valley peeps? Right there. Privileged to be here today. So grateful to the League and Katie Prendergast and her team at Horizon Strategies to bring this panel together. Very, very grateful. And I think let's hear it for the conference and all the hard work that's been going in for that. Well, we have a great discussion and a very timely discussion because, I should say, my name is Mark Stanton, as I said, and I talked about my current role as Vice Mayor, but my career has been in marketing and in economic development, and a good focus of that has been in the tourism industry. And I'm a true believer in the fact that tourism is not only the front door to economic development, it's the backyard, it's the garage, it's all things to economic development for the state of Arizona. There's not an industry that doesn't touch all 15 counties the way tourism does. And I know all the folks that are in this room know that, they experience it, they see that in their communities, and they see that in their own local economies. And we know the past year and some change has been very challenging. So we're gonna dive into how that recovery is working. You know, all of the information, the handouts and backgrounds are available on the League website and also on the app. If you have any questions, we'll open the floor for questions. We've got a microphone in the back of the room, so feel free to go ahead and use that as we get a little bit further along. And please turn off your cell phones. I don't know if anybody who was in the early morning, the motivational speaker this morning with Rick. So if someone's calling, it better be Jesus. So we know that. You know, as I said, the industry of tourism is so important, and you know, it's a bodacious industry. It's a robust industry that has so much impact, not only in that direct area of tourism and direct hospitality, but all the supporting industries that go into building that industry. Everyone from the linens to the security companies to the maintenance companies and everything in between. It really is such a far-reaching industry. And today we're going to talk about the recovery. I'd like to say that it's full recovery, but we know we're still in the COVID mosh pit. We're still there, trying to find our way through it. And today we're going to talk to three experts that speak from experience. They represent some dynamic aspects of the industry from around the state. First, I'd like to introduce Brady Harris, the Vice Mayor of Tucson. Thank you, Brady. Thank you very much. Alex Ridgway, Director of Government and Community Affairs at the Arizona Office of Tourism. And our own friend Kim Sabo, the President and CEO of the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association. So we're very grateful for them. And they all bring different perspectives, but I think it'll be interesting to hear how they see the recovery and where we are in the process of recovery for the sake of today's discussion. With that, I'm gonna turn it over and ask Brady if he would please give us a few opening remarks and a little more insight on his perspective leading into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mark. My name is Brady Harris. I'm the Vice Mayor for the town of Tucson, not Tucson, Tucson. Found all the way there at the south rim of the Grand Canyon. If you've been to the Grand Canyon, you've been to Tucson, whether you knew it or not. Really proud to be here, and it's been an excellent conference so far. I'm a little bit of a schlub next to everyone dressed so fine. The humidity and the heat is a bit more here down it is up in up at the canyon. But a little bit about myself. I work for United Airlines as the primary occupation, of course, on the where my family is there at Tucson. We're big into tourism. That's the number one industry. That is the industry of Tucson. And I was a certified interpretive guide, and then I also own the first electric bike rental business up there at the Grand Canyon. And so we're always right on the cutting edge.
Alex?
Sure. Hi guys, Alex Skelbsa Ridgway here, and I think it might be important for me to set the stage with some data before we begin. And specifically, I'll talk about 2019 versus 2020 data, and then some trends that I'm sure we all can relate to in this room. 2019 was a fabulous year for Arizona tourism. We broke all the records. And then we went into 2020 and the pandemic hit and things changed. So 3 specific data points I'll share right now are from 2019 to 2020, we lost 31% of our overnight visitation. Visitation spending dropped 41%, and our tax revenue was down 28%. And when we look at all of these categories, there's one common denominator, right? They all play into revenue. And when revenue is down, our employment also suffers. So employment was down 17.4%. And as we look at 2020 and our visitation and what we've seen last year, there's 2 specific trends. The first is that folks that normally came to Arizona and really loved to enjoy our urban centers, they moved to rural Arizona. You guys know it, right? Like, I see some heads nod. And as they moved to rural Arizona, they stayed in non-urban hotels, and they also stayed in B&Bs, bed and breakfasts. And the second trend I'll share quickly is that international visitation has harmed a lot of our counties, right? Southern Arizona and particularly our northern Arizona counties as well. This is something that we will continue to see until flights come back in ways that we've seen before in 2019. And then, of course, as we continue with the borders closed to non-essential travel. And in 2021, we've seen some great things happen, especially in July. You know, July typically for Phoenix is a really hard tourism month because people don't think summer travel when they think of July in Phoenix. But I gotta tell you, people came in record numbers. So much so that July occupancy was the highest we've seen in recent memory. And then July 2021 revenue per available room, or RevPAR, which is for you industry folks in here, you know what that is. It's a good indication of how well the industry is doing. RevPAR was higher than July 2019, which again was a record-breaking year. So I hope that's helpful to set the stage for our conversation today, and I'll turn it back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Alex. And Kim?
Thank you. Thank you to the League for having this panel. Katie, thank you so much for your efforts to provide us this opportunity to talk about an industry that is truly the lifeblood of our great state. As Mark mentioned, I'm Kim Sabo, President and CEO of the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association, and we are the voice of advocacy for the industry. So we are here to be your voice, but we need you to join us in carrying that voice to our policymakers. Alex, thank you so much for setting the stage. Usually when I am on a panel these days, I get to start with all the not so pretty data, but thank you for taking that and handling that. Thank you so much. And then Mark, with your introduction, gosh, you stole a lot of my opening remarks. One would think that perhaps you may have been the Deputy Director of the Arizona Office of Tourism. So as I mentioned, we are the voice of advocacy for the industry. And when I talk about the industry, it is such a vast industry. Mark mentioned this. We represent hotels, resorts, from the largest, most iconic resorts, i.e. the Biltmore, where we are right now, to bed and breakfast, our airlines, our airports. I saw Joe Hughes with American here earlier. All of our sports teams, our attractions, venues, our destination marketing organizations, which are such a key part of carrying the message of Arizona and all the unique assets that we have to offer to the rest of the world. So again, we are the voice of advocacy, working to create the best possible business operating environment. And again, as Alex mentioned, and as the Vice Mayor mentioned, tourism is truly the lifeblood of all 15 Arizona counties and the only industry to provide a positive economic impact in all 15 Arizona counties. So we're really proud of that, and this is a shameless plug. This usually comes at the end, but I'll probably do it now and at the end, to join our voice, our chorus of voices, in carrying the message about this industry, which I would really like to pivot and start calling it the visitor economy, because it is an economic development tool, and I think it's an industry that we could do a better job of explaining, because it is so multifaceted, it's so complex, and I think it's misunderstood. So we're on a mission to do a better job of educating on the intricacies of the industry.
Great, thank you, Kim. You know, as we talk about the recovery and where we are in that process, workforce is such a prominent place of discussion. Could you give us some insight on how you see workforce recovering from that, workforce recruitment, and what municipalities may look at as tips or trends that they could build on? And Brady, I'd start with you, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of the greatest, as we're looking into this recovery process, it's one of the biggest challenges across the country. We hear about municipalities struggling with this, and how do you overcome, right? What kind of incentives are allowed, and what kind of ways do a municipality to bring this workforce into it? You know, at Tucson, we're a little bit unique. Probably one of the last cities in the country, or in the state, that's kind of the old company town aspect. Our employment is tied to your housing. And so how do you overcome the challenge of incentivizing somebody to a community they can't buy into? Now it seems doom and gloom, but I'm hopeful for the future that providing quality services and investing in our future, whether it comes to marketing and these different aspects, or providing a better service, bringing in broadband and these type of things that you're competing amongst everyone else for this type of workforce. So it's going to come down to some basic services that municipality can absolutely help provide.
Alex?
Yeah, sure. This is a huge issue that we're facing in the industry, and I know Kim will speak on a lot of this, but from the Arizona Office of Tourism's perspective, when COVID hit, we immediately felt like, oh my gosh, all of these folks that were in the industry were laid off, and what can we do to help them? So we pivoted immediately and developed aztourismjobs.com, and that helped fill or helped laid off folks or folks that were displaced from the industry into jobs in other industries that were needing help rapidly, right? Like the healthcare industry or in our grocery stores. Now as things have returned, we have more visitation, we're now pivoting and really helping those folks to find jobs in hotels, in our tour operations, all across the industry through AZ Tourism Jobs again, but kind of on the flip side. We're partnering with Pipeline AZ on some really good connections and portals where folks can post jobs relevant to the industry. We've seen some great success, and on that note, you know, through the Visit Arizona initiative, Governor Ducey's $100 million investment in Arizona tourism, AZLTA will be really handling that workforce component. So on that, I'll pass it off to Kim.
Thank you, Alex. And yes, we would love to thank the governor for his recent investment in this industry. $101.5 million of ARPA funds, the federal relief dollars, and a lot of that will go to marketing the state, which is critically important because we're going to need to market ourselves into recovery. And part of that is going to be marketing this industry as a viable career path. The hotel segment of the industry, this is the worst crisis that we've ever faced in history, and it's wiped out 10 years of job growth. And we're still really reeling, say that 10 times fast, from losing a lot of our employees. And what we've learned is that a lot of them have left this industry permanently to pursue other career paths, other professions. So I think that we as an industry really need to come together and think long and hard about what we need to do to better market this, like I said, as a viable career path. Compliments to the Arizona Office of Tourism for the quick pivot they did to set up some resources and venues through online portals to allow employers to post jobs, and then also court employees. And again, back to Governor Ducey's investment, he invested $500,000 that will flow through the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association to go toward workforce development. So we're workshopping ideas right now with our educational partners, with our businesses, and also with our students to see, you know, how can we best utilize these funds? We want to use them very, very wisely. So AZLTA is making a big effort to go out on the road and do some town halls, and hopefully we'll be visiting your communities, all of your communities, to get your ideas on what would be of most help to you as businesses and to your communities, because we do really need to rebuild our industry workforce.
Thank you, Kim. And if we could stay with you for a moment, Kim, and let's talk about the competitive landscape for actually attracting and marketing to those visitors, both on the domestic front, but also on the international front. With COVID here and there and kind of everywhere, and what we do, I know, Alex, your job at AOT is to really promote Arizona as a destination, domestically and internationally. But what are we seeing for trends, Kim, on international travelers and what we're doing and the industry's doing to market and to recapture those visitors back to Arizona or first-time visitors?
Thank you, Mark, for that very important question, because as I said earlier, we are really going to need to market ourselves into recovery. And the governor's investment of $101.5 million is vital, because you see destinations around the country really pushing money into tourism promotion. And recent studies by Jim Rounds, our local favorite economist, shows that for every dollar invested in tourism promotion, it yields a $10 return. So again, as the voice of advocacy, we're constantly beating that drum. When our policymakers are deciding where to spend dollars, let's put our business hats on and look at what's going to yield the greatest return, and that is this industry. So the governor's investment, the Visit Arizona initiative, is going to be vital, because it is pushing monies not only to the Arizona Office of Tourism, which does a phenomenal job of marketing the state, but then we have all these amazing destinations around the state that have unique assets, and these dollars will help them best position their communities that are vying for the same visitors and or the same group travel, and really help us market into recovery. So very, very important element is investing in tourism promotion.
Thank you, Kim. Alex, how about your perspective? You're right in the middle of the competitive set with the other states and, of course, countries around the world. What do you see in how we're going to capture those visitors back under the conditions of COVID as they are?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and something that AOT looks at on a daily basis, truly. I think you said the word recaptured. I think that's really important. International-wise, our flights are just not there right now, right? We all know it. We're seeing some flights come in from Canada and from Mexico, but we're not seeing our daily flight from the UK, right? Those flights and more will be targeted with Visit Arizona Initiative funds provided by the governor. We have a flight fund. And what we're going to do is we're going to work to get those flights back, domestic and international, and then some. We have a very targeted plan with targets from domestic, cities here in the U.S., but also internationally. And so we have a very succinct plan for how we're going to do that. We know that it's so important, and when we see those international numbers come in, it hurts, right? Like, it hurts all of us. So we're very focused on that. And then, of course, I think when we talk about recapture, and Kim made a great point with Brady and just our DMOs on the ground, our destination marketing organizations on the ground, through the Visit Arizona initiative and the marketing grant, they'll be able to receive funds from AOT to market their destination and to help us recapture that visitation on a domestic level and an international level. So it's truly going to be a partnership throughout the state, and we look forward to it. We're excited.
Thanks, Alex. And Vice Mayor, this is particularly interesting to hear your perspective as an elected official, but also as a tour operator and an industry professional.
Yep.
How do you see this unfolding moving forward to recapture and to build on that visitation?
So really, it's going to come down to two things that I believe, and it's number one, as cliche as it sounds, it's going to come down to the communication, right? There's a balance you're going to have to strike with your municipalities, with your citizens who are concerned with the visitation and travel, and getting them to realize how impactful this tourism is, right? Anybody who's in the business understands this, but trying to get the regular folks on board. And the other side of this is that utilize your resources. There are an abundance of resources right now that you can end up capturing, both from AOT and other organizations, ARPA funds, and various federal entities, that they're there for the taking if you just put the work into it. There's plenty of grant opportunities for this. The biggest thing is that if you lag behind, hunker down, and don't reinvest into these industries, then you will fall behind. Right? That's just the reality of a business like this. And so it really comes at a time now, and take this resort, for example, right? Well, other resorts, and I imagine other places, are going to hunker back and cut labor and try to retract a little bit to reserve some of their assets. I think now is the time to make bold strokes to reinvest into that, and reinvest in the marketing. For example, Tucson, we created an Office of Tourism, and that's in the beginning of stages because we realize how important this is, and it will work in conjunction with our Chamber of Commerce. But these are two sides of the same coin working together, and I think it's crucial.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Kind of go along that same discussion line towards how municipalities and how the statewide industry is working. There's a lot of mixed messages on COVID. There's a lot of confusion. Mask, no mask, some masks, all masks. We know that the federal government has said that national parks, you have to be masked up. How do you see that? And Brady, let's stay with you for a minute. How do you see that messaging? And how is the industry in Tucson and your colleagues, how are you filtering through and making those decisions based with the different input?
Yeah, that's been a difficult one throughout this entire process. Is you don't want to step on anybody's toes, but you want to do what's right for your municipality, for your citizens. And for us, it really came down to just a number of town hall meetings and really getting that through, and then reaching out to the businesses. And so we took a stance that was more in line with, you tell us what you need, right? And that's an easy way of saying, but we took a stance that there are some businesses that they understood that we need to, for the benefit of all, we need to mask up, we need to follow some of these policies. It is initiated by the national park, and we work very closely with the national park because of our proximity. So we typically follow their lead. But we found some businesses, the support that they needed was, there were some people choosing to not indulge in what we had to offer as far as Tucson goes because of a requirement of a business. But if a municipality, it's a little bit more acceptable because businesses are just following the rules. So we provided that outlet for them to be able to care for our citizens, but also be able to kind of do what's best for what we needed it for. So if that makes sense.
as best it can.
Yeah.
Alex, let's keep on that same vein, but let's talk about it in an international context, because you've got some countries, there's a list that, U.S. visitors can't go to some countries and going back and forth, and airlines are mandating vaccines or masks or whatever. How are you negotiating that messaging for the outbound marketing, especially on the international front?
Well, I think for the international front, AOT really relies heavily on U.S. Travel Association for that. We're working with our federal partners. I see Ben Stewart back there from Senator Sinema's office. We work with Ben on a regular basis on this stuff. So we're definitely in touch with our federal partners, U.S. Travel Association. They're really close and boots on the ground in regards to that question. I think just to build on that, and something that AOT looks at on a regular basis is COVID sentiment, right? And to your point about masks, COVID sentiment data has really driven our marketing. Whether we market to a certain area or we turn it off, right? It's really important that every marketing move we make is driven by data. And our COVID sentiment data, I had this pulled before I came here, okay? So last week, travelers that responded to this survey said that 74% of them wanted a mask mandate when they traveled. 74%. Now, 86% of individuals asked in this survey said that they had a trip plan for the next year, despite everything, right? And only around 30% said that they're going to postpone or really cancel their trip due to COVID. So we look at COVID sentiment data, and also I want to, after our conversation on this panel, prepping for you guys right now, we talked about this data, and I wanted to let you guys know that AOT is going to provide this data to you guys. We're going to have it on our website, tourism.az.gov, under our data and trends site, okay? If you guys want to be put on our list to receive this type of data, you guys can email me. My email is in the app, the League of Cities and Towns app. And we look forward to partnering with you guys on this. And if you have a specific question, you guys can always reach out. Say, hey, what's the temperature here? We'd be happy to provide that to you.
Thank you, Alex. Kim?
Thank you, Mark. This exact question was posed. This last week we had an industry forecast forum, and we had a wonderful woman, Vail Ross with STR, which is a data company that is constantly studying the industry and trends and whatnot. And this question was posed by some of our legislators that were there. What do different policies surrounding COVID, masks, no masks, what is the impact of that? And I think the tricky thing is that it's ever changing, and there are more questions than answers. Things are fluid, so that's the biggest challenge. And I will say we will rely on AOT for the data, being the advocacy arm. But it's a really important question, and things are consumer choice is driven by these elements, and the choices that we have to make with regard to marketing are data-driven. So this has been a real challenge, trying to thread the needle on that.
Thank you, Kim. And I think, I was a little glib when I was talking about the fact we're still in the mosh pit, but the fact of the matter is we're still fighting through what the best practices are, what's the best protocol. Kim, from your perspective, when you're looking at those permanent changes to the hospitality industry, particularly hotel and lodging, what do you see or predict are going to be the non-negotiables? What are going to be the permanent changes that we see in the industry because of COVID?
Well, I would like to start by complimenting this industry. It is the most resilient industry, and we've really led from day one by example. This is an industry that is one of the most consumer public-facing industries, welcoming guests into our hotels, into our venues, to our sporting events. And from day one, we really had to hit pause and sort of reinvent what we did from a policy and protocol standpoint. Look at the guidance, look at the numbers, again, the data that was changing daily. But from day one, we took what was already gold standard for health, safety, cleanliness standards, and we took them a step higher. And again, in partnership with the Arizona Office of Tourism, that provided us with a grant program, the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association partnered with our national association and created the AZ Safe and Clean initiative. And that's an initiative through which our member organizations could apply for, or prospective members could apply for grant funds and become AZ Safe and Clean certified. And this was a set of guidelines and criteria that was compiled in collaboration with all the national hotel brands, the CDC, and some other federal entities that are on point for creating guidelines and standards. And we came up with this very extensive checklist. And it's a self-assessment, but if you go through this and you become AZ Safe and Clean certified, then you get a certification. But again, it's compliance with a whole set of CDC guidance and protocols. And I think that we really did a great job of an industry early on in helping to reestablish that consumer confidence. It's safe to travel here. I think some of the non-negotiables, gosh, Mark, again, I think it's ever changing, but you see signage for one. You see a lot of technology coming into play, a lot of touchless experiences with regard to check-in at a hotel. You can do it all from your mobile phone. I've been so amazed at how innovative this industry has been and how quickly we've been able to pivot. So I think it's ever changing, but a lot of innovation has been absolutely necessary. And then a lot of efforts to, again, reestablish consumer confidence by demonstrating health, safety, cleanliness standards has really set us apart as an industry.
Thank you. And Alex, what about your perspective on that? I mean, obviously, you look at the competitive set of other states and other global destinations. What do you see as being sort of the outcome? Are we going to be in certain protocols indefinitely, or do you see trends one way or the other?
You want me to look into my magic ball?
Yep.
Okay.
Why
okay.
we're here.
Hold on, it's right here.
I wish I had a magic ball to tell you all that it's going to be okay tomorrow, right? Like everything's going to be fine, but I don't. But I do know that AOT and our partners, we're really focused on welcoming back visitors in a way and when they'll feel safe, right? And that's all about our Rediscover campaign that some of you in this room have been a part of. You'll see it says Rediscover Staycations or Rediscover Stargazing. All of that's important, and we know that it works because we're seeing people, we can track people actually, when they click on some type of ad on a website, right? And then they book to come here to Arizona. We know exactly when they land here. And then we see how long they stay. So this messaging is working, right? So we encourage people to come to Arizona when and in a way that you will feel safe. And we're welcoming everybody, right? So come on.
And Vice Mayor, from your perspective, your boots on the ground. You're seeing it every day. And what are you seeing in terms of ongoing protocols and where things are staying?
Yeah, it's such a mixed bag, right? And every tour that you take out and every customer you deal with has such a different perspective, and it's multivariate. So to really nail it down to one is incredibly difficult, as we've all found. I find our approach is you really need to give an excuse and really an excuse for people to visit your community. And we're grateful because we have one of the natural wonders of the world up there, but I meet people from all over the place, and the data suggests that a majority of our visitation over this last year was staycations. It was local, it was domestic, it was California, and various spring breaks throughout the country. But how to entice somebody to make a repeat visit, and it's really getting innovative with what type of services you're offering as far as seasonal variation. And so give an excuse for somebody to come to the Grand Canyon in the wintertime. Whether it's the use of festivals or incentives and working with your local businesses and really trying to draw that together, because if you don't come together and you're trying to act singly and don't acquire the data, then it's just not going to be successful, we found.
Mark, could I add?
Sure, go ahead, Kim.
Sorry, I'm completely remiss in giving a shout out to the city of Page. Page was the first city that we partnered with on a program, the AZ Safe and Clean program, and all of the properties within Page became AZ Safe and Clean certified. We partnered with the mayor's office, their economic development office, and it was just a phenomenal campaign and a huge effort by the city of Page to become AZ Safe and Clean certified. I think this sent a very strong and loud message to all of those prospective visitors, and according to those that we worked with, it really helped. It really was a game changer. So we are reaching out to many other cities to formulate similar partnerships where their cities and their properties, their attractions can also become AZ Safe and Clean certified, again, to best position ourselves when we're competing for those visitors, those very, very important visitors, both domestic and international.
Thank you, Kim. And I would ask Alex, and I just saw that the Honorary Council of Canada just walked in the room. Thank you for being here, Mr. Williamson. Question for you. The Vice Mayor said that there were some staycations that he had seen, that we were talking about visitors from California. Are you seeing our travel partners, are you seeing any trends that maybe Canada or other countries that are coming more frequently despite COVID? Are there already trends there that you see in your data?
Putting me on the spot.
I gotcha.
Hold on, let me get the crystal ball.
Yeah, right? Let me get a crystal ball out again. That's a good one. We do know that folks feel more confident internationally when we look at COVID sentiment again, traveler data. We know that they feel more confident coming to the U.S., especially given our vaccination protocols that have gone on. In fact, we know that other folks would love to come here and get the vaccination, right? That also is something that we've seen a lot of. As far as Canadians are concerned, when we look at 2019 to 2020, visitation for them was down 77%. I got calls, if Clifton, Arizona is in the room, you guys, yep. You guys have RVers, right, that come down from Canada, and you were wondering, like, are they gonna be able to come, right? And that's a real concern. And so I can't look into my crystal ball and tell you that it's gonna improve, but we're rooting for you, right? We're rooting for you. And please let us know if there's anything that we can do to help fill that void, right? So we know that those international visitors may not be coming here in the next 3 months. So call us, let us know what we could do to help and maybe fill that gap between now and then. To Brady's point, off-season events is a fabulous way to do that. And to get people really into your destination at a time when maybe they wouldn't think to come, right? Grand Canyon in the winter, who thought? But if you have an awesome festival, then yeah, count me in. So I think it's a lot about pivoting and then again to that recapturing piece. But we're going to continue to work with our international reps, and this is something that I probably should have mentioned a little earlier on. Even though marketing internationally, we weren't actively marketing internationally, we have reps in each country that our target countries that we work with, right? And we continue to maintain that relationship and did a lot of educational workshops, what to see and do here in Arizona. So we also know that there's a lot of pent-up demand in those target countries as well. We're talking about the UK, Germany, Australia, China, etc. And so they're ready to travel when they feel safe to do so. And again, that messaging will remain the same, right? Arizona's ready to welcome you when and in a way that you feel comfortable. So, thanks, Mark.
You're welcome, Alex. All right, I got them warmed up for you. So now let's open it up to the room for questions. For those in the back, there is a microphone there, so if you want to ask a question to the whole panel or one member of the panel, that's fine too, but right up front we have a question.
Thank you. I have a couple questions, actually. You said 2019 looked like a banner year. 2021 is shaping up in July based on recent trends to be another big year. So my question is, all things considered, do you see tourism increasing above that on an ongoing basis, or is your fear that it's going down, assuming that you make the same kind of efforts comparatively to our competitors around the U.S.? And the other question I have is, how much advertising and that sort of thing is done by the private sector, and how much is done by the public sector? I'm just trying to get an idea of how much money is really going into this whole effort.
Got it. Okay. So in regards to a banner year in 2019, I mean, we broke all the records, right? And then when you look at 2021 in July, I did mention we had a fabulous month, right? Like we broke a lot of records for July. But we do know that the pandemic is the variable. And so when I look into my crystal ball, I can't tell you that we're gonna have a banner year in 2021 because we're not. You know why? Business travel is not gonna come back. International travel is not gonna come back. The latest data that came out in July states that business and international travel is not coming back until 2024 at the earliest, right? And so when we look at business travel, Phoenix, Tucson, Prescott, Flagstaff, Sedona, all of those communities heavily rely on business travel. Some even say 60 to 70% of their revenue is tied to that type of travel. And those travelers are important because, well, you guys know, when they come here, right, they normally bring their families. They're like, oh, I have to go see the Grand Canyon. And there's a type of ancillary travel that happens when they're here. So they may come for, you know, a conference for 2 days, but then they extend for 4. So until business travel comes back and international travel to help really those counties, again, that rely on that international travel, you got Southern Arizona, Cochise, Navajo, Apache, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. Now, some areas of the state are gonna recover faster than others. That's just how it's gonna be. Switching gears to your funding, public, private sector. Are you asking in regards to the Visit Arizona initiative or just in general how tourism's funded?
I'm just looking in general, what's the percentage ratio between, I'm thinking, is the private sector kicking much as they should versus the public sector? And what are those percentages roughly? I'm decided with the 101 million.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna get any in my community, so if I don't, how, am I still gonna be able to see tourism picking up because there's some other areas it's going to, that sort of thing?
So, yes. So when we look at tourism marketing throughout the state, right, we have these what we call DMOs, or destination marketing organizations. Depending on your community, your DMO may be intertwined with your municipality, right? So for instance, Gilbert is intertwined with the municipality. You have other DMOs that are not, right? Let's think about Sedona. Sedona's CVB is separate from its municipality. So in regards to the public-private sector dollars, that depends on the municipality and how they're funded, right? Some are funded through bed tax, some are funded in other ways. But the Visit Arizona initiative, specifically the marketing grant, is $20 million that's set aside, right? And it's for two specific entities: destination marketing organizations, right? So any of those designated destination marketing organizations, say that 5 times fast, guys. Woo. Any of those folks can apply, right, with a good grant, and then also regional partnerships. That's really important here. Not only does AOT want to see regional partnerships, but so do our federal partners, right? Regional partnerships really help reinvigorate a region and bring more folks there. So if you'd like to talk further about this, I'd love to, and we can talk maybe about what's going on in your community and ways that we can partner together. But I do think that, you know, this money is going to be injected in, and we're going to see really good returns. We've got some fabulous metrics that we're going to be tracking and publishing as well.
Thank you. And Kim, I think you wanted to add to that question as well.
I would just,
I didn't think I got the percentage of public sector versus the private sector total dollars. I mean, maybe a simple question is, based upon what the private sector invests in advertising compared to the public sector, is it much more? I mean, if the private sector continued doing what it's doing and the public sector cut it in half, would it have a major impact on it?
I think it would.
Well, I know, what are the numbers?
Oh, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Well, you get the numbers every day. I mean, I don't mean to be brash, but it's, you know what your budget is, you know what you're working in partnership with the lodging groups. I'm just trying to get an idea of what that is. You
Yeah.
talk about, I'm from Sedona, and we've had the greatest years we've ever had
Right.
financially. Revenues are up, the ADR's up, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so I'm gonna try and get a grasp on, when we build that partnership, how do I measure what that number should be when we put those monies together based upon other monies that they may have access to, so we don't waste the taxpayers' dollars?
I see. It's going to be dependent on each community. Every single one. Your percentage should be different, right? For Sedona, you guys are in a different situation, right? And off the top of my head, I could not provide you a specific data ratio, but if you'd like, I chat with you, and maybe we could come up with something that would help that situation. Perfect.
Well, and also, Alex, and I should say, she's got the repository of data that AOT has is pretty substantial, and it crosses a number of areas. But I think also Sedona, your Convention Visitors Bureau, your chamber, they have their own data as well of what sort of budgets there are. But if AOT has a wealth of information on their website and competitive data too. So, Kim?
I will say Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association is coming to Sedona September 23rd to have a birthday party for me. No, we're taking our industry forecast forum on the road to northern Arizona, so we're going to be at the Enchantment Resort. So hope to see you there. But I wanted to really drive home a point that Alex made when she talked about the difference between leisure and business. And what I have found over the last year and a half in my advocacy work in in working with policymakers is that there's a real misperception. When we saw the slight uptick in domestic leisure travel, the assumption was, we're back. you guys are recovered and everything's great. Well, no, that helped us keep the lights on our properties and got us through a really tough time. But then we were, going into some more difficult months, and the biggest variable in our revenues is in business group travel. And as Alex mentioned, it's not expected to return to 2019 levels until possibly 2024. So we're talking a long road to recovery. And what I mentioned at the beginning of my remarks was really a plea to everyone in this room and everybody you know to join our chorus of voices and get behind this industry as the major economic development tool that it is. And talk about investing in marketing. Well, I will say that the taxes collected from visitors coming in 2019 generated $25.6 billion. This industry is responsible for 10% of the state's general fund. So that's a significant amount, and I'm constantly advocating for that to be reinvested because, again, I talked about the 10-to-1 return on investment. You talk about our international visitors, and Glenn Williamson does a phenomenal job. Everything is data-driven, and if you want numbers, he probably has the numbers that you're looking for. But the importance of getting our international markets back is massive, especially heading into fall, winter with our Canadian visitation population. And one of the things that Glenn often talks about is the fact that a lot of this population isn't even counted in our visitation numbers because they own homes here. They're investing in our real estate. They're, it's a ripple effect, the dollars generated by our Canadian visitors, and it's not to be underestimated. But again, I'm a little bit on my soapbox here because I am so passionate about this industry and what it provides to our state, every last corner of our state. So again, I will leave my cards and whatnot, but I encourage you because when we're down at the legislature advocating, we talk about the number of businesses that we represent, the number of employees that those businesses are responsible for employing. We talk about the taxes generated and what that does for our holistic economy. And the more voices we have joining us, the better. So again, I invite you, please join the chorus of voices with the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association, brought to you by.
So are we all invited to your birthday party, Kim? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
right.
Because I think we're going to get a good crowd there.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, do you have anything you want to add to that question?
Yeah, it just kind of shares in the sentiment that they've been expressing is that, so far July and spring break, they were banner years by any consideration. But it's important to remember that when you're looking at the cumulative total of visitation, that we are accounting for both domestic and international, and recognizing when international trends are coming through your communities. So while we are going to have a great spring break and summertime, because guess why? Everybody's at school, right? We're going to do well here in Arizona. It's nice and warm in March, and the summer times provide their own type of recreation. It's going to look pretty dismal for the fall. And because of what type of international travel that brings, your shoulder seasons, much like we saw 15, 20 years ago, are going to return. And it's best to reinvest during times like that to start to initialize these off seasons, right? And start to looking forward to the trends. Data is only as good as what you do with it, and you need to acquire this data. It's so crucial by utilizing the resources that's been presented to us and reaching out and grabbing hold of them. I'm hopeful though. I'm hopeful we'll see a return of this, but it's only going to come with the reinvestment we put back into our communities and recognizing where those dollars come from.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Open up for any further questions from the group. We're going to do some closing statements in a minute, but any other questions for the panel or thoughts perhaps from your municipality or from your constituency? Go ahead.
Not a question, but a comment. In the very beginning, you mentioned that we were seeing more and more travel and folks staying in rural Arizona versus metropolitan. And I would hope that with the Visit Arizona dollars, that we would keep that in mind and remember that those rural areas, which is where I'm from, we're important, and we do depend a lot. We're not the Grand Canyon. We don't have the big hotels for the big conventions, but we get a lot of folks that are looking to spend time in the outdoors, in the wide open spaces. Last year, we had a number of folks that normally stayed in Scottsdale that, because of COVID, they wanted to be out in a rural area where there was more space. So we know that there are folks out there that are looking for rural destinations, and I would hope that we would keep that in mind when we're doing our marketing.
Absolutely, and I think rural Arizona just offers so many things, and we're so much more than the Grand Canyon, right? Sometimes I get asked the question, well, why do we need to market Arizona, right? Like, it markets itself. But you have to think about all the other areas in Arizona. Jerome, Safford, right? Who knew that there was a lavender farm up in Strawberry, Arizona? And it's beautiful. And it's everything that, you know what I'm talking about, right? So absolutely, we hear you. And I think on that note too, I want to plug our Appreciate AZ campaign. During COVID, everybody flocked outdoors, right? We saw record numbers in our state parks, our national parks, and as a result, a lot of our outdoor rec areas are really overused and need some love. So the Appreciate AZ campaign is an education campaign aimed at educating our visitors about sustainable tourism principles. There's 7 of them, and I encourage you guys to look them up. As we move forward throughout 2021 and into 2022, that specific program will have partnership opportunities, and we really look forward to working with you guys, because really at the end of the day, it's us providing materials to preserve your communities, and so that's super important to us, and thank you for that rural plug. We'll definitely, we always will do that. Thank you.
One last call for questions from the audience. All right, well, we're going to ask each panelist to give a recap, some thoughts, some final thoughts, and maybe some advice to municipal leaders and municipalities about how they may look at the recovery and may look at the hopeful outlook as we continue to move forward. So with that, I'd like to start with the Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone for being here. It really does mean a lot, because it just shows kind of the strength of when you come together as a voice. The one thing that I would reiterate, and it's kind of in response to the last comment, is how crucial our rural communities are to this tourism industry, right? There is no doubt in my mind that the rural communities shoulder the burden of this tourism industry. And it's really important that as we look into this infrastructure, and not just into the actual marketing dollars, but the infrastructure itself, that's recognized. And the only way to really move that forward is if you come together as communities and really start voicing opinions and prioritizing projects in a regional basis instead of just on an individual basis. It can be easy to tear each other apart seeking for these dollars, especially right now with the type of earmarking that's going on. So it is so critical that you come together as a regional. The other side about that is you got to be bold. You have to reinvest, recognize where those dollars are coming from, and really start taking it upon yourselves as a community that you may have to help support this. That while the industry can bounce back, and it will bounce back, we've seen this time and time again, but how crucial it is for us to kind of bolster it and to reinvigorate it. And thank you for everyone.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Alex?
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for the questions and the participation today. It's really been fabulous. As a reminder, that COVID sentiment data will be available on tourism.az.gov. Also, our Visit Arizona Initiative grants, our partnership grant actually closed last night. There will be a second tranche of funding in 2022 that will be available. But our marketing, our outdoor rec revitalization, and our golf courses grant, those are all open and available, and I encourage you guys to apply. And I'm just really excited to see you guys in person. And I look forward to working with you. Again, please email me, call me with anything you guys need. I'm always available, and love to hear good ideas as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And Kim?
I would love to thank you all for being here. Again, as was said earlier, the importance of convening is not to be underestimated, and we appreciate you all being here today to hear a little bit more about tourism and what our efforts are statewide. Again, AZLTA is the voice of advocacy, so we are advocating for all of our rural communities. And as I mentioned earlier, we are out on the road doing a series of town halls, so we'd love to visit your community and organize a roundtable to listen and learn what is going on in your respective community. So please contact us, and if you're not already on our schedule of stops, we'd love to add you. I do want to, I'm going to get myself into some trouble here, but you know, what's a panel without a little trouble? But what Alex said about the feedback she's received, marketing, why do you need to market your state? It just happens. Tourism just happens. And this is where I'm going to get myself into trouble. My response to that, to policymakers, is, well, of course you don't need to invest in your campaign, do you? Everyone knows who you are. So, I mean, that's going to get me into a little bit of trouble, but we've got to invest to get the word out. And finally, my shameless plug, again, to join our chorus of voices. Can't say it enough. Appreciate you being here, and hope to see you in your community soon.
Well, I have to say that I'm a little bit greedy about this, but I think this is one of the better panels at the whole conference. So big hand for our panelists. I have to say, and I have to say, you know, we started talking about what an incredible economic driver this is for all of us, for everyone in this room, everyone at this conference. And so many businesses rely not only on the direct dollars from tourism, but what those ripple effect dollars are. And also going back to what attracts business to Arizona, what retains business, all ties into the quality of life that tourism and hospitality helps provide. So please do all you can to support the industry and help each other. And I've got one more point of privilege. I have to ask, this couple right in front here, where are you from? Dewey Humboldt. I have to tell you, I've been watching the group, and everyone's got a pretty good look of intensity. This couple right here is the sweetheart couple of this panel, right here. I have to tell you, I have been smiling at them because they are just so happy, and so thanks so much for being here, and good luck to both of you. Have a great conference, everybody. Thank you.